My name is Nam Layton. I'm 29, and until last night I thought keeping my head down was enough to survive this family. I was wrong. The Whitmans are the kind of rich that doesn't scream. It whispers across silk tablecloths, through private equity loopholes, behind closed mahogany doors. They don't just own things, they own people. I married Ella Whitman because I loved her, not her last name, not the generational trust she never cared for. I believed love could outrun legacy. But last night proved love doesn't always win. It was supposed to be a birthday toast. Delora, my mother-in-law, stood with a flute of Dom Perignon, dressed in emerald silk, her diamonds winking under the chandelier like tiny knives. She smiled at me, not kindly. "Let's all raise a glass," she purred, "to our family's favorite nobody." The table roared. Gareth laughed first. Ella smiled, tight-lipped, like she didn't want to, but didn't want to fight it either. Even the butler cracked a grin. I swallowed my breath. Some people use knives. Delora uses words, and she makes sure they cut clean. Funny thing about nobodies, she continued, they never realize how replaceable they are until it's too late. She sipped her champagne. That was the end of the toast. I excused myself. No one stopped me. Outside, snow was falling over Vale in thick sheets, drowning the landscape in silence. I stood on the porch, breath clouding in the air, heart a steady thud in my throat. Ella didn't come after me. I walked back to the guest house alone. Sleep didn't come. My phone buzzed just past 1 a.m. A message from Gareth. About the transfer. Your signature's still valid, right? Transfer? What transfer? I scrolled back. A previous thread. Legal jargon. PDF attachments. My name on documents I didn't remember signing. Mortgage releases. Asset reallocations. A limited power of attorney. What the hell is this? I tapped open one file. The signature matched mine. The date didn't. January 2nd. I was in Saigon that week, visiting my mother. I hadn't touched a pen on U.S. soil. I stared at my phone. Then at the signature again. My chest tightened. Forgery. Footsteps outside the guest house. Slow. Purposeful. Crunching snow. I killed the lights. Moved to the window. Nothing. But the steps had been there. A second buzz. New message. Unnamed number. Don't ask questions, Nom. Sign what you're told. I backed away from the phone like it was venomous. I didn't sleep. By 7 a.m., I was dressed and walking up the hill toward the main house. The Whitman mansion sat like a crown atop white slopes, its glass walls reflecting dawn like something holy. Ella was in the kitchen, pouring coffee, but her eyes were distant, vacant. "Did you see the docs Gareth sent?" I asked quietly. She nodded. Didn't meet my gaze. They just need confirmation. Nothing else. Confirmation for what? A pause. Too long. To liquidate the Aspen property. The deed's still under your name from the inheritance restructure last year. Remember? I didn't. I never agreed to that. You're lying. She flinched. You said it wouldn't matter. That it was a formality, she whispered. I never said that. I never. Delora walked in, radiant, serene, holding her coffee like a priestess with a chalice. Good morning, darling, she smiled. You look pale. Trouble sleeping? I didn't answer. She turned to Ella. Has he seen the updated doc? Ella nodded once. Wonderful. Delora stepped closer. Her voice dropped to a hush. You're part of this family now, Nom. And in this family, everyone contributes. Some give money. Some give silence. I stepped back. I'm not signing anything. Delora's smile didn't falter. Of course you will, if you want Ella to stay healthy. My blood went cold. Ella's eyes widened slightly, barely a twitch. But it was enough. This wasn't business. It was extortion. Outside, snow began falling harder. Somewhere deep in the house, a door closed or opened. "You have until midnight," Delora said, voice like velvet over a blade. "After that, well, your status as nobody becomes permanent." I turned on my heel and walked out. The door slammed behind me. I didn't look back, but as I reached the guest house, something felt off. The air shifted, and then I saw it tucked under the door. A red envelope. No name, no stamp, just a wax seal with an unfamiliar crest. Inside, a single line handwritten. "She's not who you think she is, and neither is he." The wax seal cracked in my fingers like brittle bone. Inside the red envelope, the ink was uneven, the slant sharp. Someone wrote it fast, maybe in fear. "She's not who you think she is, and neither is he." I stared at the handwriting. It wasn't Ella's. It wasn't Gareth's. I flipped the paper over. Blank. No clue. No initials. A shadow passed across the guest house window. I turned, heart seizing. Nothing. My phone buzzed. Blocked number. Voicemail. I played it. A distorted voice, like someone speaking through a scarf. "You were never supposed to see the deed transfer. Stop digging, or you'll end up like Nolan." Click. My mouth went dry. Nolan? He was Ella's cousin, her godfather, the one who'd managed the family's real estate arm for decades and vanished last spring after a nervous breakdown. They said he checked into a wellness retreat. They said he needed distance. But no one ever saw him again. I dressed in 30 seconds. Jeans, jacket, phone in pocket. If they were threatening me with the same fate, I needed answers. Now, I headed toward the main house. The snow had slowed, but the fog clung low over the mountains, turning everything ghost gray. The kitchen was empty. No ella, no Delora. I moved upstairs, past the hallway of portraits, each Whitman face frozen in oil paint, eyes that followed you like they knew something. Gareth's office door was cracked. Inside, files, locked drawers, 2 monitors, one displaying a spreadsheet, the other a paused security feed. I stepped in, quiet as breath. The desk drawer was unlocked. Inside, USB drives, an old key, and a document folder marked AMC Group Holdings, internal only. I took photos. Every page. My hands were trembling. A floorboard creaked upstairs. I pocketed the folder and the key. Slipped out. Downstairs again, I heard it, a voice. Yes. On the phone. No, he doesn't know yet. But I think Gareth pushed it too far. If the AMC documents leak. She turned the corner and froze. We locked eyes. "You're lying to me," I said. She hung up slowly. Don't. Just tell me what AMC Group Holdings is. Why is my name in their internal filings? She looked pale. "You weren't supposed to see that." "Is this about the Aspen property?" "No," she swallowed. "It's bigger." I waited. Ega Said. Her voice dropped. "Your name's been used in 3 different shell corporations. Gareth needed someone with clean credit, a neutral name, someone no one would suspect, someone disposable." Her silence was answer enough. I laughed, short, bitter. "You let him use me." I tried to stop it. I told him you'd find out eventually. But you didn't stop it. You just watched. I turned to go. "Nam, wait." I stopped at the door. "He forged my name. That's a felony." "Gareth isn't afraid of jail. He's afraid of exposure." I paused. "He's not the top of this, is he?" Ella's eyes flicked, not a no. I left. Cut scene. Back in the guest house. I plugged the USB drive into my laptop. A folder auto-opened. Encrypted files. One unlocked. A list of wire transfers. Dozens of names. Many flagged under a strange code. V19. Nolan. Nolan. I clicked. A scanned receipt. $5 million withdrawn from AMC Group Holdings. Wire sent to an account in Luxembourg. Authorized by N. Whitman. Not Nolan. Nash Whitman. Delora's late husband. Declared dead in 2016 after a hiking accident. I leaned back. My pulse throbbed in my neck. Nash was dead. That's what everyone said. Except maybe he wasn't. My phone buzzed again. Another voicemail. This time Ella, whispering. They found the envelope. You need to run. Now. I barely had time to grab my coat before someone knocked on the door. 3 times. Sharp. Methodical. A man's voice. Mr. Layton. It's Detective Slade. We need to speak. It's about your connection to Nolan Whitman's disappearance. I opened the door slowly, one hand on the knob, the other gripping the USB in my jacket. Detective Slade looked ordinary. Tan trench. Worn boots. Tired eyes. The kind of man who always carried a notebook but never smiled. He raised his badge. We got a tip connecting you to a sealed property transfer filed by Nolan Whitman before he disappeared. Mind if I come in? My throat tightened. Am I a suspect? Not yet, he said, but let's not make this harder than it has to be. Inside, the air in the guest house was too still, like it was waiting for something to snap. He glanced at my laptop, still open. Been working. I closed the lid, just budgeting. You know what I think, he said, stepping closer. Someone wanted Nolan gone because he was about to expose something. Fraud. Embezzlement. Maybe worse. I didn't answer. He looked at me like he already knew I was lying. There's a file in the county registrar's system. Transferred ownership of a block of commercial land from Nolan to you. 6 months ago. But Nolan's been missing 8 months. I blinked. That's not possible. Dead men don't sign deeds, Mr. Layton. Slade pulled out a folder. Black and white copies. My name. Nolanes Forget signature. A notary stamp. I felt the floor shift under me. You're not charging me. He shook his head. Not yet. I'm giving you a chance. Tell me where that money came from. Money? What money? Slade opened another page. A wire transfer for $1.6 million from AMC Group Holdings, deposited into a trust account under my name 2 weeks ago. Trust account? I shook my head. I stopped. I remembered the key from Gareth's drawer. Someone setting me up. Slade leaned in. Then prove it, because right now you look like a guy laundering money for a man who's been missing long enough to be declared dead. He left. No handcuffs. No arrest. Just a quiet warning. Cut scene. I waited 30 seconds before opening my laptop again. Typed in the trust account number. Routing matched the deposit, but the access required biometric authentication. Fingerprint or retina scan. Who the hell was running this? I opened the AMC folder again. Dug deeper. One file named slnprotocol.pdf. Encrypted, but the metadata read, last modified Nash Whitman. No way. Nash had been gone 9 years, officially dead after a fall in Grand Teton. But here he was, digital fingerprint, recent. Dead men don't sign deeds, and dead men don't modify files, unless they're not dead. My phone buzzed again. Ella. Where are you? I whispered into the receiver. Her voice was shaking. I'm outside the ballroom. They're meeting with someone. A lawyer. I think it's connected to the offshore accounts. Don't go in alone. She paused. I overheard them say your name. Gareth told Delora you were expendable now, that they have the signature they need. My blood went cold. I stood. Where's the ballroom? The Ridgewood Hotel, downtown. I'm coming. I hung up, tossed on my coat, slipped the USB back into my pocket. Outside, the fog was thicker, the kind that eats sound. At the Ridgewood, I parked 3 blocks away. Walk it fast. Head down. Inside, Chandeliers glowed like interrogation lights. A jazz trio played soft, polite nothing. I saw her, Ella, leaning against the bar, pale, watching the hallway near the private event wing. She didn't wave, just nodded once. I approached slowly. What now? There, in the Belmont room, Gareth, Delora, and a man I don't recognize. He had a scar on his cheek. Military cut. Not family. Security. Or worse. A waiter passed. I grabbed 2 flutes of champagne to blend in. Do you have the key? She whispered. I pulled it from my pocket. It might open Nolan's locker at Whitman Storage. He kept records off-site. If there's proof Nash is alive, it'll be there. Come with me. I can't. If they see me with you, they'll know. I hesitated. Nom, she grabbed my wrist, eyes locked. You're not crazy. Everything you feel right now, the paranoia, the doubt, it's because the truth's more dangerous than the lie. I nodded once, then walked, past the ballroom, into the back corridor. At the far end, a door marked, staff only, basement access. I swiped a key card I'd lifted from Gareth's jacket last week. The lock clicked. Cold concrete, dim lights, rows of steel storage units. Locker 3C. The key fit. Inside, 3 binders, a safety deposit bag, and 1 photo. Nolan, alive, standing next to Nash. Dated 4 months ago. I stepped back. The light behind me flickered. A footstep. Then a voice. Did you really think you'd walk out of here? The voice behind me was low. Calm. Too calm. I turned. A man stepped out from behind the column. Suit black, shoes polished, posture military. The scar across his cheek caught the flickering basement light like a blade. The same man Ella described. He shut the storage room door with one gloved hand. Put the photo down, he said. My fingers tightened around it instead. I know who you are, I whispered. He smirked. You know nothing. He moved first. Fussed. I threw the binder at him, buying 1 second, maybe 2, then sprinted out of the aisle, lungs burning. Cut scene. The basement corridor stretched ahead, long and dim. Emergency bulbs flickered overhead, making everything strobe in jerky frames. Footsteps behind me. Heavy. Controlled. I ran. Reaching the elevator, I slammed the button. The doors didn't open. Of course not. I spun left. A stairwell. I pushed through. Up 1 flight. 2. 3. My heart hammered. My breath tore at my ribs. A thought flashed through my head. Something my mother used to say. Fear is just a message. You choose if you answer. Tonight, I wasn't choosing fear. I pushed into the service hallway on the 2nd floor. Workers pushed carts of linens. A bartender smoked in the corner. Nobody looked up. I blended, or tried to. The scarred man stepped out from another corridor, right into my path. He'd anticipated me. I froze. He started walking toward me, steady, deliberate, like a man closing a business deal. Give me the key, he said. My pulse spiked. So he knew about that too. I don't have it. You do. I backed up, but a housekeeping cart blocked me. A metaphor flashed in my mind, something I'd once read. Corner a man long enough, and you teach him to bite. I grabbed a glass bottle off the cart and smashed it against the wall. The bartender jerked, startled. Linen worker dropped towels. The scarred man didn't flinch, but I used the distraction. Threw the broken bottle at his feet, shards scattering, then slipped past him, pushing through a ballroom side door. Cut scene. Warm golden lights. Polished marble. Dozens of guests in gowns and tuxedos. A silent auction in progress. The shift from danger to glamour made my head spin. Eyes followed me, confused, irritated, but no one intervened. Rich people avoid conflict the way they avoid carbs. I scanned the room for Ella. Nothing. A voice crackled over the ballroom mic. Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your seats. We will begin the presentation shortly. presentation. Then I saw her, Delora Whitman, stepping onto the stage in sapphire velvet, smiling like she owned every oxygen molecule in the room. And next to her, Gareth. His tie was crooked, his eyes hollow. They were about to announce something. I slipped behind a curtain near the sound booth. The booth operator stepped away to take a call. The laptop controlling the screens was open. A slideshow queued. I clicked preview. My stomach dropped. A document showing the trust account under my name. $1.6 million deposited with the caption, "Funds traced to Nolan Whitman." They weren't just framing me privately. They were about to do it publicly. If this went live, I'd be arrested before sunrise. A whisper behind me, "You shouldn't be here." I turned. Ella. Her mascara smudged. Hands shaking. "They're going to announce that you're under investigation," she said. "They'll say you cooperated, that the money was yours. They want to bury you before the state digs them up." "I found the photo," I said. "Nolan, Nash, alive, together." Ella's lip trembled. "You don't understand," she whispered. "They're not just alive. They're running everything." I grabbed her hand. "We need to leave. Now." "No. Listen," her voice cracked. "They know you found the locker. The scarred man? He works for Nash. Not my mother." I froze. "What?" "She's not the top of this," Ella whispered. "She's the shield. Nash is the one pulling strings. He never died. He's been restructuring everything for years. Using Nolan. Using Gareth. Using us." Her silence answered. The ballroom lights dimmed. The audience clapped. Delora stepped forward. "Thank you all for joining us." Ella squeezed my hand. "Hard. If you leave now, you might survive. But if you stay..." A cold breath touched the back of my neck. The scarred man, standing inches behind me. "No escape." I shoved Ella aside as he grabbed my arm, twisting it behind my back. Pain shot up my shoulder. "Time to go," he murmured. I struggled, but his grip tightened. He dragged me toward the exit, past crystal vases and horrified whispers. Ella shouted my name. I was almost out the door when the ballroom screen behind us flickered. Static. A glitch. Then, a new image. Not the trust account. Not the forged deed. A live video feed of a dark room. Concrete walls. A single chair. Someone tied to it. Head slumped. Chest barely rising. Ella gasped. "Nolan!" The audience murmured. The scarred man froze. And the figure on the screen lifted his head just enough to look straight into the camera. Straight at me. His lips formed two words. "Help me." The ballroom froze. Gasps rippled through the room like a dropped match hitting dry leaves. The scarred man's grip slackened, just enough for me to twist free. I stumbled back, eyes locked on the screen. Nolan stared out from that concrete room. Bruised, barely conscious, but alive. Then the feed cut to black. Screams erupted. Someone shouted for security. Delora's smile shattered, replaced by something primal, panic or rage or both. The scarred man lunged for me again. I bolted. Cut scene. I sprinted through the ballroom exit, knocking over a table of champagne flutes. Glass exploded across the marble. Behind me, heavy footsteps thundered. A voice in my head whispered something I'd once heard. Run toward the danger if it's the only way out of it. I didn't know if that was bravery or stupidity, but I ran anyway. Up the back staircase. Second floor. Service hall. My lungs were fire. I nearly collided with a figure rounding the corner. Ella. Nam, stop. We need to find where they're holding him, I said, chest heaving, before they move him or kill him. You shouldn't have seen that video, she whispered. Then why did someone show it to me? Her silence told me she didn't know. Or she did know but couldn't say. Cut scene. Footsteps echoed nearby. Not hurried, confident. Delora's. Ella grabbed my arm. This way. We ducked into a linen closet. Darkness swallowed us except for a sliver of light under the door. Footsteps passed. Her mother's voice sharpened the air. Find him, Delora hissed to someone, and shut down that feed. Nolan was supposed to stay buried. My skin crawled. Buried. Not figuratively. Literally. Ella squeezed her eyes shut. She's in deeper than I thought. No. Y murmurat. She's protecting someone else. The scarred man said Nash was running everything. Ella flinched. She hadn't wanted me to know that part. A siren blared in the distance. Hotel security alarm. Someone must have reported the disturbance. It was our moment to move. We slipped out the back stairwell, out a fire exit, and into the freezing night. Snow fell in swirling sheets, glittering under the parking lot lights. My breath fogged the air. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. One line. If you want Nolan alive, get to AMC's construction yard. Midnight. I looked at the screen clock. 11:23 p.m. We had 37 minutes. Cut scene. We took Ella's car. She drove like her hands were trembling because they were. The windshield wipers slapped against the sleet, cutting arcs through the storm. Why Nolan? I asked. Because he found out what AMC really was, she said. It wasn't a development firm. It was a laundering pipeline. Money, assets, people. My stomach twisted. People. Ella nadid. You know how my family buys failing companies? They don't buy them. They bleed them, convert them into shells, move undocumented workers through them. Some disappear. Some reappear in places no one checks. Her voice broke on the last word. This wasn't white-collar crime. This was something darker. The car hit a patch of ice, skidding before she righted it. You married into a machine, she whispered. And I'm part of it too, whether I like it or not. I didn't respond. Sometimes silence is the only thing honest enough. Cut scene. We turned onto the industrial road. AMC's old construction yard loomed ahead. Chain-link fences, abandoned cranes, floodlights buzzing with a dying hum. The gate was open. Not a good sign. Ella killed the headlights. We rolled to a stop behind a rusted excavator. We go together, I said. No, she whispered. If they see me, they'll know you talk to me. You'll lose whatever leverage you have. And if I go alone, I die alone. Her eyes glistened. Sometimes survival is choosing which death you can live with. I swallowed hard. A line surfaced in my mind. Courage isn't loud. It's the whisper that says go anyway. I stepped out. Snow crunched under my boots. Air sharp as glass. I walked across the gravel yard toward a warehouse with a single light glowing inside. My shadow stretched long and thin behind me. The door creaked open at my touch. Inside, dim fluorescence, stacks of pallets, metal containers. A generator hummed somewhere deep in the structure. Then I saw it. A chair. A rope. Blood on the concrete. Nolan. I whispered. Movement. Someone stepped from behind a pillar. Marcos Valli, the private investigator who went missing last year. The man people whispered about, the only person who ever challenged the Whitmans. He looked older, thinner, eyes haunted. You shouldn't have come alone, he said. You sent the message. No, I'm the warning, not the trap. He stepped closer. They're coming to kill you, Nam. Nash doesn't leave loose ends. Nolan wasn't supposed to live long enough to speak. I stared at him. Where is he now? Marcus nodded toward a storage container in the corner. He's alive. For now. But the scarred man and 2 others are en route. You have minutes. The generator hummed louder. Or maybe that was my heartbeat. When did you get involved with AMC? I asked. Marcus exhaled. When I realized the Whitmans were running a pipeline under the guise of construction. Something beyond fraud. Something close to trafficking. I tried to expose them. And He looked down. I vanished. Cutscene. A distant engine roared outside. Headlights swept across the warehouse slats. Marcus grabbed my arm. We need to move Nolan. Now. We ran to the container. He unlocked it with shaking hands. Inside, Nolan lay slumped, wrists bound, face bruised but breathing. We'll carry him, Marcus said. We lifted Nolan, his weight dead soft, his breath ragged. The warehouse door slammed open. Boots hit the concrete. Fast. Military fast. Marcus froze. I froze. Nolan groaned. A voice boomed. Put him down. The scarred man. He stepped forward, gun raised, eyes cold, unblinking. But what froze my blood wasn't the gun. It was the man behind him. Nash Whitman. Alive. Smiling. Hello, Nam, he said softly. I've been waiting for you. My body reacted before my brain. I dove sideways, gunfire exploding behind me, tearing through the crate where Nolan had been moments before. Marcus yanked him clear. We rolled behind another shipping container. Metal rang with bullet impact. Sparks. Echoes. Fear thick like blood in my mouth. Nash Whitman's voice echoed, cold, deliberate. Did you really think you could take this from me? I built this empire out of ashes. Another shot. I pulled the weapon I'd taken from Marcus's bag earlier, a small Glock he'd stashed in case things went bad. Things were very, very bad. I remembered something my mother once said when I was a kid, broken and forgotten at the family dinner table. Monsters are only brave because they assume they'll never be challenged. I rose to my knees, peeked over the crate. Nash stood flanked by two men, armed, scanning the dark. Scarface to his left. Ella appeared behind them like a ghost, a pipe in her hand. She slammed it into Scarface's head. Chaos. I fired. One of Nash's men went down. Marcus dragged Nolan out into open air, toward the exit. Nash turned his gun toward them. I didn't think. I moved. Tackled him. We hit the concrete hard. His elbow slammed into my face. I tasted copper. He grinned as he pressed the barrel to my neck. You should have stayed invisible. Then he froze. The sound behind him was quiet. A metallic click. Ella, holding a second gun, her hands shaking but steady. Step away, she said. Now. Nash laughed. You wouldn't shoot me. I already did, she said. He blinked. Blood seeped from his side. He staggered, looked down like he hadn't even noticed. His gun clattered beside me. I stood. Ella backed up, trembling. I stared at Nash. You had everything. Why destroy lives for more? His answer was calm and sane, because I could. I turned away. Sirens wailed in the distance. Marcus had called the feds. Cutscene. The warehouse lights flickered out just as Nash collapsed. I took one breath, then another. Ella cried silently. Nolan groaned. Marcus whispered, It's over. But it wasn't. Not really. Cutscene. 3 weeks later. Courtroom. Federal charges. Press everywhere. Nash survived. Barely. He pled not guilty. Didn't matter. We had proof. Ella turned state's witness. So did Marcus. Nolan testified from his hospital bed. It was ugly, but it was real. AMC collapsed overnight. Accounts frozen. Properties seized. The family that laughed at me during dinner? Most of them had sealed subpoenas by breakfast the next day. And Delora? She fled. Interpol flagged her flight out of Switzerland. She was arrested in Prague with 3 passports, $2.1 million in crypto, and a fake ID that listed her as Cassandra Vale. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Cutscene. Nolan's recovery was slow, but he smiled again. I helped him sit through therapy, taught him how to walk again. He still joked with nurses, even while strapped to machines. He said something once that stuck with me. The greatest revenge is survival, but the real victory? becoming something they can never touch. I think that's what I did. I didn't burn them down out of rage. I exposed them so I could walk away clean. Unafraid. Cut scene. One last meeting. I stood in the back of the courthouse hall. Ella approached, coat in hand, eyes hollow. You could have walked away, she said. So could you. She smiled, sad. My father. He always said the family business was about legacy. But legacy without conscience is just a tombstone with your name carved on it. I nodded. You don't have to be them. Neither do you. We didn't hug, but we understood. Sometimes justice isn't in the courtroom. It's in the choices you make after the damage has been done. Cut scene. I live in a small apartment now. Quiet. Clean. Mine. No secrets in the walls. No eyes in the ceilings. I paint sometimes. Cook. Nolan calls every Sunday. He says he might write a book. I tell him not to put my name in it. He laughs. I don't need the world to know what I did. Because I know. I was the nobody they laughed at. And I was the reason they all fell. Some battles aren't about winning. They're about becoming someone who would never fight that war in the first place.